when I was a kid in Regina, Saskatchewan, my grandmother and my grandfather on my mother's side lived on a street which I think was Forget, forget. Now, I'm not sure if that was originally a French word, like Forget Street, but I remember my older cousins, Debbie and Kim, we always called them Kim and Debbie, it was just a little easier to say. Kim and Debbie showed me the street sign because we would go for a walk, and we called it the Chinaman's store. That's what it was called by us, by my grandparents. Go to the Chinaman's and get me this, and go to the Chinaman's and get me that. It was just a little corner convenience store. We didn't have big shopping malls, I don't think. There was just like big, maybe almost like farmers markets or something, but they were further away, so if you needed something in a hurry, the corner store, a lot of them were run by Chinese people, was where you would get like an extra bag of sugar or something like that. So me and my cousins were tasked with going to get whatever was missing from the Sunday meal. So I seem to remember seeing a street sign, and I said, "It's Forget Street." And they said, "Yeah, we live on Forget Street." Now, my grandmother, as I explained in another video, we called her Nanny because of the 101 Dalmatians movie. We went to Nanny and Grandpa's place frequently. I think it was on Sundays for a Sunday meal, and my some of my aunts and uncles would be there because there's a lot of them. My grandparents had, I think it was 9 kids. So, and if each of them had a wife, my Uncle Daryl wasn't quite married yet at that point. But each of them brought their wives. I mean, that tiny little house on, I'll call it Forget Street. I don't know, Forget Street. At my grandma's house. It's a small house, and it had, 9 kids. That'd be 18 adults, and all of us cousins. So that's kind of crowded. So us kids were, we didn't want to stay in the house, so we'd go outside. Now in the yard, my grandpa was a house mover, and in his yard he had nothing for kids to play with. We played on the big moving timbers, which would be like 12 by 12s. All of his trucks, giant truck tires, we would just crawl all over that, and that would be our playground. And then once in a while we would be sent to the corner store to get supplies. I heard a story when I was there that my cousin Kim was riding in a truck with my Grandpa Joe Howell, and she fell out of the truck. Like, she's probably monkeying around in the passenger side of the cab, hit the door handle, and of course the door, this is a 1940s or 1950s truck, and the door just popped open, and Kim fell down all the way onto the road, but luckily didn't get run over because my grandpa was quick on the brakes and stopped the truck. Another time, there was always something living in the attic. Like, this was a really old house. It wasn't sealed up that great. And my Uncle Daryl and my Uncle Don, maybe, we were out in the yard because we told them, us cousins went in and we told them we heard something in the attic, and my uncles came out and they go, "Whoo!" And you hear this "whoo" come back from the attic. And they said, "Whoo!" And this "whoo" comes back. So it was an owl in the attic. I don't know if it had a nest, probably. Another time, I heard talk in the kitchen that there was a beehive in the attic. So now it was the mission of my my uncles to get the honey. So I don't know how they did it, but they were able to pacify the bees, probably with smoke. I don't really remember the smoke part because I wasn't up there with the hive. I was down in the ground. But I do remember, maybe it was maybe they accessed it from the inside. I do remember my uncles bringing giant bowls of beehive down from the attic. Whether that was inside the house or outside access, I'm not sure. But I remember my grandma, Nanny, put this all in a big pot on the stove, melted it all down, and they had the best tasting honey that whole year. She put in a bunch of jars and we had honey from their own attic. Another time, me and my cousins, we were just playing out on the front street, and this old lady in a nightgown came out in her front yard and said, "Hi, how are you doing?" and all this. She's all real friendly. And she said, "Come on into the house. You guys hungry? I've got some cereal. You want some cereal?" So she lured me and I think my sister Ronnie and maybe my two cousins, or one cousin at least, into her house. We're sitting at her table, all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, eating her food. She's pouring cereal, she's got milk. And, you know, we just had a great time. Didn't know her name, so we thanked her and we left. And we went to Grandma's house, told my parents, and they just freaked right out. They said, "Don't ever go into anybody's house unless we know them," right? Now, just based on her look and my memory of her and her features and her hair color, I think she was a Romanian gypsy. She had all the classic looks of that type of a person, of that culture. So after that, we called her the witch, because she looked like a witch. She was old enough and had the really striking features. And she lured us into a dangerous situation, but it ended up, she's a really nice lady and probably just missed having little kids around, I don't know. Anyway, nothing bad happened from her. My nanny, grandma, she also mentioned something. I was looking at pictures of old trucks or something. I seem to remember her telling me that my grandpa Joe Howell made his own first cab over engine, COE truck. He made the first one in Regina. This is before the COE design was made by General Motors. He cobbled together some old truck, probably from the 30s, 40s maybe. He nailed them together and extended the controls so that it was a COE engine, a tractor unit. And he used that for moving houses. Just trying to think of what else happened there. Grandpa Howell told me in an interview when I was in grade 7, he was up from Regina. I was already moved to Edmonton by then. I asked him what was the happiest day of his life. And he said, when my sister went to school. And I said, "Oh, you mean like university?" He goes, "No, grade 1. Because apparently getting an education was pretty rare when he was a kid. He also told me that the reason he left home was because he didn't like his stepmother. He didn't get along with his stepmother. So he left home and he went up north to work. This is northern Saskatchewan or northern Alberta. I think it was Saskatchewan. And he was looking for work, and he went up to some northern Saskatchewan town, and he couldn't. He met up with some native Indian, Aboriginal, and the Aboriginal guy was looking for work as well. He said, "Come on with me. We'll go to a work camp. I know where it's a little lumber mill or something like this." So he followed this Aboriginal guy. And the Aboriginal guy was much older. and he was more powerful, and he was walking through deep snow, and my grandpa couldn't keep up. So the guy actually just, I guess he couldn't wait, so he just kept on going and basically abandoned my my grandfather, Grandpa Joe. Grandpa Joe said that he was following along this row of cut lumber, these piles of lumber. He just kept following, and he was trudging through deep snow. And he said he just got tired and exhausted, and he eventually decided he's going to cross over that row of chopped down trees to find out what was there. And of course there's a road there. He said there's some kind of life lesson in that, you know, just take a chance and cross that difficult barrier. Might be something really good on the other side. So he got to a road, he walked along the road, got to a town, and he had no money. He'd been cold and starving for I don't know how many days out in the woods. And he was in town, and the town had an ordinance, no loitering. So a cop picked him up and saw that he was freezing to death, but the cop put him in jail, but left the door open. So he said that that cop saved his life, apparently, because he would have for sure frozen to death that night. He said eventually he got to a work camp, and he was working there, and he said there was a secret about the work camp. The people who were building that lumber mill had made all their plans based on the direction of the river flowing a certain direction. Now they were down in Ottawa or New York or someplace building this lumber mill, paying to have this built. And apparently no one told them that the river actually flowed the other way. So their lumber mill wasn't going to work. They'd have to pay to have lumber pushed upstream to where they were. But he said that all of the workers kept their mouths shut. They had work all winter, and then the next spring, when everything started to melt, they all just left. And I have no idea what happened to the lumber mill after that. That's all I can think of for now. Memories of Forget Street.